Hello and welcome to In the Town and welcome to our preview show where we look ahead to tomorrow's game at Kenilworth Road between Luton and Preston North End. We'll be getting the opposition view today, hearing what they have to say about Preston and what they make of their chances tomorrow at Kenilworth Road. Tonight, I'm joined by Dave and Bataro's back. Evening, lads.
Evening.
Good evening.
Last week at Burnley was so good, but tomorrow we return to Championship football back at Kenilworth Road again after the Cup against Newport midweek. How excited to be back? Just Championship home game again.
I'm looking forward to it. I think we've played some really great football, to start with in the league, and I can't wait for this next one.
It's only going to get better, so yeah, excited, can't wait. Let's go again.
When you're looking at tomorrow's fixture, in your head, are you just thinking, we're going to win this?
I'd like to go to every game thinking we've got a chance to win or we can win. But you never know with this team, do you? You just never know with Preston. That's what I would say. You don't know. For me personally, I don't know what we're going to get from them. So I'm hopeful that we'll go. We're due a couple of goals. Elijah's due a couple of goals. So hopefully, we just get in on them. And if we start like we started against Burnley, then I don't think Preston will be able to keep up with us. That's how I feel.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
I think Preston's going to be one of them games where it's like you don't really know what you're going to get with them. You look at their first two results of the season, they've both been 0-0. And this is why it's good to have a Preston fan come on and kind of tell us about their performances, because you can look at that and go, well, they've not scored, but they've not conceded. So have they been playing okay? Have they been lucky? Or it'll be interesting to hear from them what they think of their first two games.
Yeah, and likewise for them really, because they've seen probably a decent result that we had against Burnley. And they're thinking, why didn't you beat Birmingham? But you look at Birmingham now, and they've got a few points on the board already. So, yeah, it's a challenging game, I would say, a challenging game. And I think if we take hold of it, and if we play as forceful as we know we can, then we've got every opportunity to win it. That's how I think. I would be disappointed not to win. I would be disappointed. I'm not saying it will happen, but I'd be disappointed if we don't win.
I think it's going to be a game where we have to start well like we did against Burnley last week, but we do seem to, whenever we play Preston in a league game, we seem to do all right. I don't think we've lost that much to them since we've been back in the Championship. We seem to be a bit of a bogey team to them.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we could do what we did to them last season, was it 4-0, was it last season?
4-0 on that Tuesday night.
Yeah,
we played very well that day, yeah.
We were brilliant. So anywhere near that level of performance would be much appreciated. And look, even 50% of that performance, I think we're still winning the game. But look, I mean, they're a different team. I'm sure they're not exactly the same as what they were last season. I looked at the stats the other day. Look, they played very well. So look, if they come at us and try and give us a game of football, I'm sure it'll be fine.
They're a team that no one's really spoken about in the Championship, I feel, in the build-up to this season's league. Do you feel?
I don't know enough about them this season.
Well, that's what I mean. It's not been public, has it? You've seen some of the business other clubs are doing, like Burnley have been in a lot with obviously Company in charge, and you just haven't heard Preston being mentioned much. And it's kind of like, could Preston be dark horses this season?
Maybe, but do they not have ownership issues as well? I'm not certain. We might want to ask man that one. I don't know is the answer to that question. It's a difficult one, isn't it?
To be fair, you can say that about any team in the Championship. I think they could all be a surprise package. Every season it changes. You don't ever get the same result with where they finish in the table. So look,
I think the issue. I think you're right, Patara. I think the issue we have is that we look at this. We look at those teams we know and possibly in inverted commas fear. Those top teams that you look at them and you wouldn't include Preston like that, and maybe you wouldn't include us like that either. But you look at West Brom. You look at Burnley, you look at those boys down the road, and then you don't really think Preston.
No.
But because we don't know. We'll find out more in a moment, won't we?
Definitely will. Shall we get the lads on and have a little chat with them?
Yeah, let's do that.
So let's welcome Sam to the podcast and also Jack, who are joining us tonight. Lads, how are you?
All good, thank you, lads. How are you?
Yeah.
Loving it. Loving football at the moment.
So we've got Jack from the Butterpie Pod and Sam from the Finny Pod. Guys, you've had 2 0-0 draws to start the season. I think a lot of fans, especially us, will look at them 0-0s and go, well, you've not conceded, you've not scored. Has it just been a bit 50-50? But how have you guys performed in them first 2 games of the season?
I'd say we've shown some really good promise, especially in the attacking play. And defensively, but it's for me. It's all about. It's been scoring goals. We haven't scored a single one. We kept 2 clean sheets. That's great, but our strikers just can't put the ball in the back of the net. And yeah, that's really it.
It's a tricky one, really, because if you look at the table, sorry, just to put in there, we've got, I think, from the first 2 games, we've got 5 big chances missed, whereas second in the table is obviously Burnley, who played on Saturday, has got 2. So there's 2 ways you can look at it, really. I'm trying to stay quite positive even. I put the 2 words together there. Quite positive. We are creating a lot of chances, and also we've got Emil Rees on the side, who scored 20 goals last year in the league, and then we've got Troy Parrott as well, who obviously he's missed a couple of chances in the last couple of games, you can tell, because we've not scored, but he does look really bright, and I've got full faith in the team, full faith in the strike force, even that as soon as we get 1 goal, I think they'll start hopefully showing that clinical edge, and we'll start putting a lot of goals on the board.
And Jack, just on them last 2 games, then you mentioned that you've missed some big chances and stuff. Are the Preston fans getting a bit annoyed at that? Was there like grumbles or anything in these 2 games, or was it fairly chilled and everyone's going to let it's early days still?
I'd say more so in the Hull game than the Wigan game, because we had about 14, 15 shots in the second half, and our XG was over maybe like 1.5 in that second half alone. We should have scored at least two that game. So from that game, a lot of Preston fans have been moaning and thinking, and somewhat have been very, very, very reactionary, saying that Rees and Parrott aren't good enough. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's all just reactionary, and I think they'll come good, obviously. But, it is very frustrating, and I think the vibe around the fans is certainly that they are frustrated that the strikers just aren't putting the chances away.
It's early doors. We said this, look at last season, you look at Nottingham Forest, they were a slow starter, and look where they ended up. Sam, what is the feeling going into the game on Saturday?
There's 2 ways you can look at it, really. I mean, both of us, we've had 2 draws for our opening games. We're both on 2 points. We both probably feel that we certainly did enough in at least one of the games to get a win and potentially be sitting on 4 points. And, going into it, we know our record, as you mentioned off air before, at Luton Town is pretty horrific. 7-2 from the last 2, 7-0 from the last 2 visits. I think we worked out the other day on our last 5 visits, so it's a 31 aggregate loss. So, it's far from a happy hunting ground, but I think early season games, it's really hard to tell how teams are, going to do this year. We obviously know Luton had a fantastic year last year. We're unlucky to lose in the playoffs, and likewise going into this season, I think we've got a lot more optimism around the club than we've certainly had, ever since we returned to the Championship ourselves in 2015. So I think both teams, if they have genuine playoff aspirations, as early doors it is, we'll see it as not a must-win because we're only on the 3rd game of the season, but I think the sooner 2 teams that are, gunning for the top 6, essentially, the sooner you get that win under your belt, I think the better. So I think both teams will go for it, and I'll be quite surprised myself if it's another stalemate.
Sam, we asked this question on our last 2 preview podcasts with a Birmingham fan and a Burnley fan, and I just feel like it's something we should ask every single week, but we've had it so many times where teams like we should be beating teams like Luton. As a Preston fan, or as loads of Preston fans, what's the general feel coming into playing Luton? Is it's only Luton, we should be beating them? Or are we finally getting a little bit of respect from other teams in the league now?
Oh, you're right, Luton off at your own peril. I mean, Nathan Jones is an outstanding manager. I think Luton have got, it's been proven, an absolutely unreal, recruitment of, often punch above your weight, really, in terms of budget, haven't you? I mean, you're probably, am I right in saying you're probably a bottom 4 or 5 budget, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I mean this in, the most respectful way possible. You're not one of the bigger teams in the league, are you? But you only have to look at, since you've got back in the Championship, you've improved year on year. And I think, Luton are a team to be respected. And I think this is probably the first year where you've maybe shown not a bit more ambition in the market, but you've probably gone for it a bit more. You spent a lot of money on the likes of Carlton Morris. You've made a lot of sort of standout signings that will cost a fair bit. I can't imagine the Reece Horvath loan's very cheap either. Corley Woodrow, a lot of clubs would have been after him. So I think you're right, Luton off at your peril, and I fully expect you this year to have a really good season. I think you've got as good a chance as any to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's good to hear, to be fair. That's nice. Because some people don't even have a clue. Like half our squad, and bloody was that? Who's this? Who's that? But, brilliant. But, right. Jack, the question for you. What can we expect from Preston? Because like we said, we don't really know too much about, obviously, you boys. I'm sure we'll find out a bit more on Saturday, but can we expect much coming from you lot?
you're going to expect more of a possession-based game from us. I think more so than the last few times you played us. I feel like we're going to be a much better side than we were when you absolutely spanked us last season, and I feel like we'll be a little bit more organised, and I think we'll be a lot tougher to break down. I think Hull and Wigan have found us tough to break down at times. I think Hull barely had any chances against us this weekend, so I think you're going to find a more tougher opponent than last season, and a more well drilled and organised Preston side.
Well, I hope not. Anyway, so, yeah. Let's just hope that you might have improved and we might have improved like significantly. So yeah, let's hope.
So when we look at the season, Sam, what are Preston's ambitions this season? Where do you want them to be, or where does the club think they're going to be going forward? Are they going to be challenging for that promotion, or are you going to be happy with mid-table one? I don't mean that in that disrespectful way either. Or do you have eyes on that golden automatic promotion, please?
Well, I'm not one to be pessimistic, but you can automatically rule us out of the top two. We've not got anything like the defence really needed for that. I don't think we've got the squad depth to challenge for that. And when you look at some of the teams that will be gunning for them places, Burnley's recruitment, Norwich, Watford, they've all got strong squads going down, and there'll be a lot of like West Brom. Middlesbrough have recruited far better than us. I think, that's the magic of the Championship. I think anyone who really mid-table plus seems to think they've got a shout at the playoffs, and there always is a dark horse. I mean, obviously, no disrespect you lot last year and Barnsley the year before, no one expected to get in there, so you can't rule it out. But I think with the squad we've got now, presuming we bring in the right back from Arsenal, who I think with and maybe land another striker, I think top 10 would be a realistic expectation. And then obviously you give yourself any chance of getting into the playoffs if you can, be in and around 3 or 4 points of it going into the last 6 or so games. But I wouldn't say we're favourites for the playoffs, but I'd say, if you can get in that top 10 towards the end of the season, you wouldn't rule us out at all.
There's always a chance, and I think we proved that last season ourselves. No one expected us to do that well, and we had a glorious season, and it just didn't pull it off at the end, did we? There, but
I also feel that's what the Championship's all about, though, isn't it? Like anyone can basically finish anywhere. And so you said Barnsley did it, we did it,
but it's not like the Premier League. Because at the Premier League, you know who's going to be in that top 4 at the Premier League without a doubt. You know who they're going to be, but in our division, no, it is almost a free for all. If you get a good run in, you could just take that place.
Jack, who do you think are the players that we as Luton fans need to be wary of at the weekend?
Personally, for me, Ben Whiteman. I think he's a very good, sort of deep line playmaker who can make stuff happen from deep. He's really replaced Ben Pearson, who we sold in January 2021, and he's come in and completely took to it like a duck to water, really, and he's just become a really reliable deep line playmaker who's been one of our best creators in the team. And I feel like if he gets the influence he gets or needs, he will be a massive influence. And I'm also gonna say Daniel Johnson, simply because he's like, I think he's the main midfielder who we look up to really progress the ball forward, create chances, and he's capable of scoring a goal or two.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, I've seen him play a few times and score a few goals on Sky Sports, so yeah, he's been doing it for quite a while now, hasn't he? Not a bad little player.
Yeah,
well, I'm looking
appearances at the weekend.
I'm looking forward to the weekend. Lads, you be at Kenilworth Road at the weekend?
Yeah, I'm going down. It's no trains running from Preston, I don't think, or around London that day or something. So luckily I've got a mate who's willing to drive me from Manchester, so happy days for
Fair play. Jack, will we see you there as well?
I'm not going to be there, unfortunately. Don't do many away trips, and I'm not really looking forward to the fact that it's Luton away.
I don't blame it. It has a reputation, the gardens and everything else. It has that reputation.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant away entrance.
It's a brilliant away entrance.
It is what it is. Lads, before we let you go, we'll hear from both of you. Maybe Jack, let's start with you. What's going to happen on Saturday?
1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. And Sam, what do you think?
I think it'll be an open game. I think it's got to click for our strikers at some point. Obviously, we know about the how well coached Luton are going forward and some of the attacking talent you have on show. And I think if it clicks for our strikers, I think we could be due for an entertaining draw. I said on our podcast, I think it'll be 2-2, and I'm going to stick with that prediction here.
There we go. Could be 3 draws for each of us to start the season.
Unbeaten start to the season.
Exactly.
I'll take that all the time.
Invincible.
Well, you know, and from small acorns, you know, you never know what's going to come.
Well, Jack and Sam, thanks so much. Sam, enjoy your visit to Kenilworth Road at the weekend, and Jack, thanks so much for joining us tonight, guys.
Absolute pleasure, lads. Thank you for having me on.
Really nice to chat to Sam and Jack, and some really nice and refreshing opinions on Luton Sam had, and you know, and he definitely respecting us, which is great to hear that we're getting respect finally from opposition fans.
I'm sure it's not by everyone, but yeah, it was, like you said, it was quite nice to hear, and obviously done his research on Luton as well.
There's always going to be teams. There's always going to be teams that are teams like Luton. They're always going to do that. But you're right, a nice bit of respect and a really good insight to what they're thinking about the game. So yeah, I like it.
And he mentioned that Jack mentioned that they've kept the clean sheet. They've missed 5 big chances in the league this season, which when you look at Burnley, they've only missed 2 big chances. So it does kind of make you think, what kind of game are we going to be in for? Because when you look at what we've conceded, obviously nothing against Birmingham, barely even a shot on goal against Birmingham. It wasn't that difficult to play. Burnley, we defended very, very well, and they scored a brilliant goal, which again, you can kind of look at us and go, is a little mistake from Adebayo's slice clearance. So it's quite interesting to see how this one's going to play out.
I think it's time for us to score a couple of goals too. So I wouldn't be surprised, as like Sam said, if it was a high scoring draw. But I'm hopeful that our defence will play as well as it did against Burnley, and we will end up getting the points. So, you know, it wouldn't surprise me either way, but I'm hopeful. I think it's time for us to score a few goals. We've created enough chances recently, and we just got to take a few more.
Yeah, and like I say, I feel that if they come at us and they try to play football and they try to play it the correct way, and, well, it's no correct way, but you know what I'm saying, they try to get at us, I feel like we can hurt them. And I feel like it'll be very entertaining, but I just feel like teams have to come to Kenilworth Road to try and play football against us.
Well, that's not what Birmingham did the other week, was it? No. They come and they were time wasting from the off. But it's like, if a team comes to us and goes, right, let's have a real go here.
So I feel like they did that last season, even though we beat them, was it 4-0 on the Tuesday night or whatever it was. I still feel like they tried to play the right way, and you know, I hate actually using that term, playing the right way. There's no such thing as playing the right way. You know what I'm saying? Playing attacking football or possession football, trying to get at the opposition. And I feel like if they was to do it, I feel like we'd benefit from that. So I've always said it, but yeah, I'd be very happy for them to come at us and see how it goes.
And I think it's definitely going to be an attacking game, hopefully from both sides, hopefully end to end. But like you said, I think we're due a couple of goals, aren't we? I know we got one at the weekend
we need to score
against Burnley, but it'd be nice just tomorrow to really hit the ground running and maybe just put out a bit of a statement to say, look, we really do mean business again this season.
It'd be nice to score a couple of goals at home as well, wouldn't it? I mean, the first game of the season, I thought we expected a couple of goals, well, 1 or 2 goals at least, you know, to open it up. And, you know, first game of the season didn't happen. Obviously, and probably rightly so as well in the end. We weren't probably good enough to get a couple of goals, but
Elijah's due a goal. It'd be nice. Morris wants to score. We've got so many places we can score from, and it's about time that we put a couple of those big chances away. You know, against Burnley, we had a couple of cracking opportunities in the first half. We took one, and the others didn't.
Even in the second half against Burnley, we created opportunities. So, you know, it's hopeful, isn't it? And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the game. Luton v Preston, Championship's back at Kenilworth Road. Very exciting. Before we go, a couple of weeks ago, we started the leaderboard. Bataro, you weren't here last week for the score prediction.
So therefore, it's void. So Dave, unlucky.
Dave went for a 1-1 draw last week to get a point. I went for a 1-0.
You didn't ask me. I was going to say 1-1 draw as well.
Well, you didn't come,
well,
so you know, can't do it.
If you don't ask me, then it's void, isn't it?
What are you saying? Luton v Preston tomorrow, what's the score going to be?
I think we're going to win 2-0.
I'm going to go 2-0 as well.
That's just cheating, man. You can't be doing that.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, was it really?
Dave,
I think, what were you going to say? 2-0 as well? Keep yourself safe?
I think in future, boys, you need to write down before you say so we can prove it. But I'm going to go for a very optimistic 3-0. That's my optimistic one.
Let us know what you think the score is going to be between Luton and Preston in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this week. If you're listening as well, go watch this on YouTube. Just search Owen the Town. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next week.